Listen up, presented by Dempsey's and Sportsland. Alongside Ryan Phil with Sarah Ryan. It's a little family gathering this weekend for me. Something special going on with my family. So I know it's a little different scenery here. I apologize if you all see anybody in the background or any extra voices around me. I don't even have my microphone, so it's a crazy weekend. So we'll get through it. I'll get back to Frederick on Saturday or late Friday night. But let's go and get right down on into it. We wanted to recap the UConn game. My takeaway from this is, usually they don't say one player makes a difference in sports, Ryan. But right now, if this trend continues, boy, oh boy, without Paige Beckers, without her presence on the floor, you're really starting to see, I know it's one game, the first game without her, but I think that it's very concerning, and it could turn out to be a nightmare.
Yeah, it is very concerning. And, with all these injuries starting to rack up now, you had Paige Beckers go out for, expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks. We learned that on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, Nika Mule is out several weeks. She could be out several weeks with the foot injury. So, that's 4 players out for this UConn team. And, I wasn't expecting them to lose tonight, but I'm not shocked that they did lose, because with all these injuries racking up, and it's tough when you lose your best player. It's hard to rebound from that on such quick notice. And Georgia Tech was ranked before the season started, and they were 6-2 now after this win. So they're not a bad team. They're a good rebounding team. This is a tough loss for UConn.
It is. It really is. And again, we'll just have to wait and see how much longer they can contain to stay towards the top of the rankings. I'm looking now. I guess if this is correct, Ryan, South Carolina 1, North Carolina State 2, Connecticut number 3, and then Stanford 4, Baylor 5. So again, it's going to be interesting to see how much longer they can contain even in the top 10 if this trend continues. Let's go over the box score, I guess, very quickly. Connecticut, they were actually trailing 13-9 in the first. And I was actually out at the dinner gathering that we had, and I checked my phone, and it was coming up on halftime, and it was still a close game. Connecticut, they came back and scored 19 in the second, but then Georgia, Ryan, they put away. And again, it was concerning with Paige Beckers on the floor, but now it's even more concerning. When I say that is, Connecticut scored only 5 points in the fourth quarter. And again, it seems like that they kind of faded away when they played number 1 South Carolina. So again, it's like, now you have a whole extra problem with Paige Beckers out, and they only scored 44 total points compared to Georgia's 57. Usually it would be Georgia Tech 57, UConn 80, score like, but now it's that quickly. It's amazing, man. It seems like that I woke up in a whole nother world.
Yeah.
You're so used to UConn being dominant in sports, and now all of a sudden it's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, because coming into the game, I saw this stat right before we came on. UConn had won 240 consecutive games against unranked opponents, and that streak ends tonight. So that just goes to show that the level of competition that we expect, and the level of intensity that we expect from this UConn team, this loss is going to hurt them a little bit. But I think the reason for me is, obviously the injuries, but just this game alone, they didn't shoot the ball very good. And that's another huge thing about Paige Beckers going down, is that she takes most of the shots. So she puts up 15, around 15 shots a game. So UConn, they shot 31% field goal percentage, and then only 13% from the 3-point line. So, and when you only score 44 points, it's tough to win any game like that. And the turnovers, again, for this Huskies team, we're not used to seeing this amount of turnovers. Way too many turnovers in the fourth quarter. They were outscored 18 to 5 in the fourth quarter. 18 total turnovers throughout the whole entire game. So really, really tough game for UConn. Just with all these injuries, they didn't shoot the ball good. And like you mentioned, it's almost like an identical to when they played South Carolina
Mhm.
Georgia Tech just
But they had Paige Beckers in.
yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, and Georgia's Tech defense really just shut down UConn in the fourth quarter, much like we saw
Yeah.
with South Carolina.
Yeah.
Their defense just wore this UConn Huskies team down, and UConn just couldn't do anything about it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I don't sound like, what do they call it? A negative Nancy. That's what they say. Don't be negative all the time. But I tell you, the struggles that we were seeing, just glimpses of here and there in these ball games, we should have saw it coming with Paige Becker's out now. I don't want to stay negative on this team, but I tell you, it's actually going to be very challenging to see them make it. And again, a Cinderella story. Paige Becker, what's the best that can happen? Paige Becker comes back just in time for March Madness, if they can even punch their ticket to them and get into, which I still think they can. I still think they'll hold up, and I still think they'll make March Madness. But again, best case scenario for them, Paige Beckers gets healthy again and she comes back, and they are finishing the Final Four or in the championship game, right, just in time for it. Because I don't think I wanted to ask you this, see what you say. I don't think that a Paige Becker is only second-year college player, not a professional. I don't think the time that she's going to miss here is going to factor into anything as far as mentally stable coming back, that she's ready to play the game of basketball again. She's so great that I don't think it has anything to do. I think it's just a question of, can she come back fully 100% healthy, ready to go when she's called upon again?
Yeah, I mean the injury is definitely devastating for her and the whole team, but I don't think it's going to affect her at all. She's such an amazing player, the leader of this team. So
Mm-hmm.
but my question is for you. I mean, who's going to step up for this UConn team now with Paige Becker's out? Azzy Fudd, she's going to miss a couple of weeks. Nika Mule, like I mentioned, she's going to miss a couple more weeks. So I mean, who's
Mm-hmm.
going to be the one who steps up and takes those clutch shots for this team and passes the ball around and just tries to get this team energized again?
It's tough. I have a top three, and I want to say the transfer from Ohio State, Dorka,
Yeah.
Juhas. But although she doesn't really flash in the points column, she is big on defense. She'll get the rebounds when you need them, and she'll get the ball up the floor when you need it the most, and get the ball in your star scorer in your star player's hands to put points on the board. I want to say her as far as just playing defense. Olivia Nelson Adota is another one for me. She scored 12 in this ball game tonight against Georgia Tech. And then, a lot of people talk about Evina Westbrook, which I do. I like every person on this team. But I'm going to put more of my focus on Kristen Williams. I think that and she is a senior, I believe, Ryan, Kristen
Yeah.
Williams.
Yeah. Senior.
I really want to say Kristen Williams. I believe that she's a senior here, and she led all in 13 points tonight. Definitely, you're going to have to see more out of these ball players. Someone has to step up, and I know it's tough. It's easier said than done. Someone has to step into Paige Becker's spot, and we'll have to see. I don't know if it's going to be a whole team effort or it's going to be one player that steps up game by game. It's too early to tell, because in this game, you look and each of them contributed. Adota had 12, Kristen Williams 13, Evina Westbrook 11. So I mean, it's kind of separated from player to player, and they all contribute, which is good, which is a good thing.
Right.
You can see that they spread the ball around more tonight. But again, but I think a lot of people, in my opinion, they're sleeping on Kristen Williams. We already had 2 episodes on her. She had her career high in points per game. I think this season it came.
Right. In the
Um,
opener, I think. Yeah.
in the opener, right? So we've had discussions about Kristen Williams before, and again, I just like the way that she plays basketball. I mean, she's a great ball player, but to me, in my opinion, I really think it's Kristen Williams if anyone steps up on this team. But again, they're all great. Again, we talked about how UConn top A school for college basketball. So don't be surprised if it's not Kristen Williams. Any of these girls, I strongly believe this, any of these girls are capable at breaking out. It's just the fact of the play calling, the coaching styles. It's crazy, but it's all going to change now with Paige Becker's out.
Yeah, and it's the pressure level too. I mean, for these players, they're expected so much being recruited to UConn, being the top tier players coming out of high
Mm-hmm.
school, and with
Yeah.
these injuries racking up now, with Paige Becker's going down, the expectations are so high for this team and these players to step up for Paige Beckers and the other players that are out and just expected to win at a high level. And Gino gets the best of them. So it's going to be a quick turnaround for this Huskies team. They play UCLA December 11th, so 2 days from now. Quick turnaround playing UCLA at home. So we'll have to see how they look. We'll have to see how they respond to this loss, this tough loss. It's probably going to be another close game, I would assume, for this Huskies team going up against a pretty good UCLA team.
Yeah, so that drops Connecticut to 5-2 on the season. Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets 7-2. Ryan, I guess let's go over. Did you see who led the? I think it was Lieutenant. I don't know if I'm saying this right. So Lieutenant for Latamaj Lieutenant. I'm sorry if I'm saying that incorrectly. But she led Georgia Tech with 15 points. Any flashes that you'll see? Maybe this player. I don't know if you looked into this player, the profile a lot, but I mean, is she one to really flash on the big board, and maybe you might see her get drafted, or this is the first I actually heard of her, Lieutenant for Georgia Tech, the Yellow Jackets.
Yeah. When I was researching this team earlier, and I came across a fact that I found kind of interesting. The starting lineup for this Georgia Tech team, 4 out of the 5 players were born outside of the U.S., and 6 total players on the roster were born outside of the U.S. So I thought that was kind of interesting. You're starting to see nowadays these players coming from outside of the U.S. That's always good to bring, because there's a lot of talent overseas. But I mean, Lieutenant was leading the team in assists coming into this game. She led in scoring tonight. Pretty good 3-point shooting team. But Georgia Tech is known for the rebounds. Pretty even on the rebounds tonight against UConn. But again, for me, it was just their defense that just suffocated UConn. It was a tie game going into the fourth quarter, 39-39. But Georgia Tech, they just wanted it more, just like when South Carolina played UConn. South Carolina wanted it more. And, Georgia Tech came out tonight at home. They had the Huskies right where they wanted them in the fourth quarter. And they just came out with some type of intensity that you need to beat this UConn team. And they just suffocated them in the fourth quarter.
Let's shout out on Listen Up, Ryan, to Rhonda Bugs on Twitter. She said that coaches better learn to pull their starters with a 40-point lead before someone gets hurt. Example, Paige Beckers. I think this is a good example. If you're Ariema, if you're going to keep getting blown out in games like this, but you still have a chance at March basketball, to punch your ticket to the tournament, to the big dance, like they call it. I think that it's important, if you're going to get blown out, you're going to have to take these starters out of the game with the 40-point lead, because you're going to need them healthy once March comes around, if Paige Beckers is coming back, to have that chance to eventually run at the title.
Yeah, I mean, it was so tough because it was 40 seconds left in the game, and it was a non-contact injury. So it's just so unfortunate. But I mean, I can see, where they're coming from. It is such a huge lead. Why not, bring the bench players in? But I think there's only 3 or 4 bench players, I believe, with these injuries that UConn has. But I mean, you just can never expect something like that to happen. Such a, terrible injury like that. It's unfortunate. I mean, you can't predict something like that to happen. But Coach Gino, he's been here a long time. I think I read something where, he was saying, how could I predict that would happen? So it's definitely tough, but, you learn from your mistakes. So,
Yeah, that's definitely right. We will go over the top 25, Ryan, and then we'll get out of here. Any significant changes in the top 25, like we do every single episode, the women's basketball rankings right now, as I see, we'll go over the top 10 like always. South Carolina, North Carolina State, Connecticut, Stanford, Baylor, Arizona, number 7, Louisville, 8, Maryland, 9, Tennessee, 10, Indiana.
Yeah, UConn was tied with NC State last week, and they dropped to the 3 spot. And now with this loss, I would expect them to move further down the board, possibly to the 10 spot, or even maybe outside of the top 10 with this loss now, and the injuries racking up with Paige Beckers. I'm not sure how the committee or whoever makes these rankings will decide where they're going to go. But I'm not a huge fan of these rankings, like I said before. But Louisville, I want to highlight them. I'm always talking about Tennessee Vols, how good they are. But Louisville is a good team too, and Arizona 7-0. They're undefeated, sitting in the sixth spot. I like them as well. So yeah, I mean, it's gonna be interesting where UConn falls after this loss, and it's gonna be interesting with this game coming up 2 days from now against UCLA.
South Carolina's in the driver's seat with a 9-game winning streak. Connecticut is on the opposite end of that for sure. They're on a slide, and it's looking very bad. Ryan, I'm going to go ahead and let you go. Again, the next game for Connecticut is against UCLA, and then they face, is that correct? Yeah, UCLA, and then they face number 7 Louisville, a very hot Louisville team, and a number 3 Connecticut team, like you said, that we sooner or later we don't expect them to be in that 3 hole.
Yeah, it's going to get tough. It's only going to get tougher for this UConn team. But I'm very interested to see 2 days from now how UConn responds. So we'll just have to wait for that matchup.
I would try to catch up with you Saturday after that 1 o'clock matchup, UCLA and Connecticut. And again, let's say it again over and over. This team, Paige Beckers, is the heart and soul of this ball team. So it's going to be very interesting. I can't wait to see down the stretch how it turns out. And we wish her all the best in a speedy recovery. We're praying for her.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, out 6 to 8 weeks. So, I just hope and pray that she's able to be healthy. And this whole UConn team can come back healthy and strong, and be ready in a position where they're ready to play their best basketball as a whole group all together in March Madness, regardless of what their rankings are or their ranking is at the end of the season. They're for sure going to be in March Madness, but I just hope and pray that they're able to be all healthy and really tackle March Madness as a whole healthy team.
All right, Ryan, stay warm. Christmas is coming, bud.